Hey, Shalom Markin, this is Rakamaka Pashum, Jimis London, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bashem Chakwadash. Want to give double honors unto the elders, the apostles of GMS, and Shalom out there to the hopeful elect, pushing his truth in all sincerity. Back in another video, and I got this tweet, whatever you call these things these days, from the X platform, right? And we got here Larry Fink talking about the tokenization, basically, right? Which is the digitizing of assets, which gives these institutions and basically the elite greater control over assets, right? And this all links into this whole new system, this digital system that Esau has been creating, with the digital IDs and the digital currencies, the CBDCs and that kind of stuff, right? This is their new world order, right, where they control, have a complete control over all assets, right? And Larry Fink's here talking about it, right? And so this tweet here says BlackRock CEO Larry Fink says this is only the beginning, as the tokenization of everything is underway, right? Because right now you can say the things and assets we use are kind of analog in a sense, right? It's an old version, right? We still hold cash and stuff like that, even though these things are quickly diminishing, right? Things are done in a particular way, which is not, very closely recorded all the time, right? And they want to completely digitize the system, right? And have you, be verified with the digital ID and, have all this information connected and linked to you and run through a database somewhere and with a bunch of fucking supercomputers and shit run by AI, right? They want everything digitized, right? So they can monitor and manage it all through the AI and through this digital system. Okay. So he goes on to say, it says money, right, in the form of the CBDCs, the digital currencies, right? Property, even personal identity will soon exist in digital form, right? And that is the direction that this world is being moved in, right? All these, corporate companies and these governments, they're all pushing, right, to get this in place, right? Because it's important to the new order, right? Because it encompasses, or so that it can incorporate the mark of the beast, right? This is what all this technology is for, and it's going to be, basically the interface or the connection between you and it. The Internet of Things is going to be that micro chip, that RFID chip that they want to have in people, right? Which is, again, something else that they're working on. Okay, putting these technologies inside of you. Right, we already got things. We already have RFID chips in people, in hands and whatever. Right, doing what they call convenience. For convenience, right? When we were talking about it this morning, she was asking me, "Oh, have you heard about what's going on in Sweden?" It's like, well, it depends what you mean specifically. Right, and she mentioned that the whole micro chips and stuff like that. I said, yeah, we've covered that in the past. Because that's like that was like a hot spot, like of that technology, happening in the earth, right? Sweden is heavily into that stuff, and these Scandinavian nations, right? And but yeah, they want to move these things throughout the earth, man. They're all talking about implantable devices and stuff like that. We got Neuralink, okay, which goes in your head, right? So all these things, they're pushing you to, pushing to establish, okay. And we got this guy there, I think, talking about it, right? He says he calls it a major opportunity for BlackRock. Yeah, I'm sure. Saying the plan is to move beyond traditional financial assets by digitally repotting them into a new system. Okay, it's all about this new system, this new world order. That's part. It's part of this new system, right? This digitization of everything. Okay, where you don't have control over any of your assets, right? These governments, these elites, basically these corporations, they're going to have control of all these assets, right? And that in lines with the whole WF with, you were owing nothing, right? But again, they're going to claim that you're going to be happy because everything's gonna be so well managed, right? Because these are great managers in the earth, right? They make sure you people are all right? So that's gonna end badly. But the whole UBI, you own nothing, but they're gonna supply you with finances, to keep you afloat. But it's all gonna be digital assets. Right, it's all going to be digital assets, and then if you want them, you have to comply with the standards that that's required to get them. Okay, i.e., you're going to have to take the MOTB to access that digital system, because you're going to have to be a part of that digital system. You have to be verified. You have to, have the right credentials, right, the right status. All right. So this is again something they're heavily moving towards, and it all fits into prophecy. All right, so let's just grab some scriptures. I'm going to start here, Revelations 13 and 16. And he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand on their foreheads, right? So this is the prophecy that is going to take place, right? And in some cases, it's taking place in a sense, right? Because you already have these people implanting themselves with RFID chips in their hands and in their heads and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of already started, but the application for it is not for this purpose that we're going to read about yet, right? Because they haven't done the rest of it yet. Okay, they haven't implemented the rest of it yet, right? To get to this part in verse 17, and that no man might buy or sell. Well, if everything's digitized and you've already got cash, you ain't gonna be able to buy and sell with that. It's not valid tender. It's not legal currency anymore, right? So for you to buy or sell, you have to be a part of this digital system. Okay, you're gonna have to be verified. You're gonna have to have that RFID in your hand to do it, right? Because we all know what the RFID technology does. Okay, what it's used for. Don't believe Nate when he talk about it's just for tracking, because he goes an idiot. But this is how we make our payments, and this is how payments are being pushed. Digital, contactless payments is way up now. Cash is being used less and less. They're shutting banks, they're taking out ATM machines, right? So they're pushing towards this digital world, man. Okay, where they're getting you used to, contactless payments and tapping and scanning and all these different types of things. That's what they're getting you used to, right? But they're going to require it at some point that this technology be in your hand, right? So that you can be, completely verifiable. Mixed in with the what do they call that? The biometrics. All right, they want to make sure that it's you that is making these transactions, right? So tokenization of everything is very, very much about control, right? To the minutes of things, right? And that is total oppression. That's really what they're looking to do, right? To have complete control over everything, and you basically have lack of control, right? So again, he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand on their forehead. That's that RFID microchip. Pardon me. And that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, right? It's required for you to be able to buy or sell, or to receive your universal basic income, or to get your rations, right? To get your food, right? You're gonna need that, because they're gonna want to know who's making this purchase, right? Without a doubt, without any forgery or the ability to forge, to commit fraud and all this kind of business, right? They want to know, right? Save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name, which is all contained in that RFID. All right. And like I said, this is all about control, right? And like Larry said, this is an opportunity for us, for the elites, for the rich and powerful. Ain't an opportunity for the little guy, right? I want to read this from Genesis chapter 47, verse 18. It says, when that year was ended, they came unto the second year and said unto him, we will not hide it from my Lord how that our money is spent. My Lord also have our herds of cattle, and there is aught left in the sight of my Lord but our bodies and our lands, right? And this is during the famine in Egypt, right? Okay, everybody was suffering, right? Because they had lack of food, right? And Egypt had stored food, right? And these people gave up everything just to be fed, right? And that's what Esau is doing. He's taking everything away from you, man. And all you require from him, basically, because things are going to get so bad, is that you be fed so that you can stay alive, right? You don't mind giving up yourselves as slaves, essentially, right? Because that's what you're going to be in this new system, right? But you people, you're not gonna resist so much, basically, because you're gonna, because the other option is to starve, right? And most people ain't gonna do that. So a lot of people are gonna give in to this idea that we need to take this technology and put it in our hands so that the government can feed us. All right. So you're gonna submit to this new system, right? So they said, we haven't got nothing left but our bodies and our lands. Verse 19. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes? Right? These men don't want to die. They don't want to suffer anymore. So they're gonna just do what basically these men want them to do, right? They're gonna take that implant, right, and then they're gonna get, supposedly get access to, food and whatever, food and water, medication, whatever the case may be, right? That's the trade-off, right? You're gonna put yourself in slavery, but you're gonna get these perks, these benefits, or whatever, right? Which is, these promises, man. You should know something about Esau and his promises. He never tends to uphold them, right? So it might work for a little bit, but then you're gonna find out it don't work no more, and whatever the case, right? So wherefore shall we die before thy eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed. Right, that's the opportunity, right? The opportunity for the elites right now is to put everybody in permanent slavery, permanent digital slavery. Right? That's the opportunity, right? But it's not an opportunity for you. When does the little guy have opportunity, really? All the opportunity is always for the rich, right? And they had the opportunity, to put these things in place against us, right? We will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land may be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's, right? So this type of trouble that we're coming into, man, is going to prevail over everybody, for the most, the majority of people. Okay, save the elect and some rebellious souls out there, right? But for the most part, these people are going to be overcome by these things, and they're going to accept the mark, right? They're going to accept the mark of the beast, all right? And like I said, all this Larry Fink's talking about, that's all part of that system, right? This is James chapter 2, verse 6. It says, but ye have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you? And that's what they're looking to do. They oppress you even further. Okay, but this slavery is gonna be so absolute that there's no way of getting around it. There's no way to get around it. You're gonna be locked into the system, and that's it. You ain't gonna be able to get yourself out, because there is no other system that you can take advantage of, man. That is the way the world is gonna be. And you say if you're not a part of it, okay, whether you refuse to be a part of it, or Esau decides that he don't want you a part of it no more, you turn your chip off, and then you can't. How do you get access to anything? Like, people already know, like, even today, there's certain things that you have to do if you want certain things in this world, certain hoops you have to kind of jump through. But this is going to be that on steroids, right? You ain't going to be doing nothing. If Esau decides that this character here, such and such person, with such and such credentials, where he ain't allowed to do this, that, and the third, there's nothing that no one's going to be able to do for you, man. Nothing can be authorized, to help you out. There ain't another way around to do it. If you want to go and make some cash on the side, how are you going to do that? I mean, you could work. You could work for somebody, and maybe I don't know. How maybe he can give you some food. Maybe, I don't know, but you ain't doing nothing in this system, man. Without Esau knowing it. Esau, he's watching with the drone. He you know what I mean. You're always gonna be under his watchful eye. All right. So, but you have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats, right? The rich oppress, right? The rich oppress, man. Larry Fink is one of those rich guys, right? He's one of those puppets of the elites, right? One of those mega, running one of those mega corporations, right? This is Habakkuk 2, verse 5 says, yea, also because he transgressed by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarge his desire as hell, right? The rich are rich, right? They have everything that a man could need, right? And what a man could want, right? And yet they still want to take more and more and more and more, right? Adding to to the money that they can't even spend. It's crazy, right? But that's how you know it's not really about money. This isn't about money, right? This is about control and power, right? When you control all the money, like everybody is a servant, right? The borrower is servant to the lender. If you don't own no money, you don't own no asset, you don't own anything, you're a servant. You're a servant, and they have complete control. All right, right now it doesn't really stand like that right now. That level of control doesn't exist for them right at this moment in time. Right, but they're getting very close to it now. They're getting very close to it. Right, but he just wants everything. He doesn't want you to have anything at all. So he who enlargeth his desire as hell and is as death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations and hateth unto all people. Right, that's why it's a new world order. It's an agenda that they want to push upon all the world. Right, Esau's not happy knowing that somewhere in the planet, someone's not doing half bad. You know what I'm saying? It irks him to know that someone, somebody or some people in the world are not doing that badly, and he wants to crush them. He don't want to see no middle class. He just wants to see abject slavery, abject poverty. That's all he wants to see around him, right? Preferably away from him, but he doesn't want he doesn't like knowing the fact that other people got other things. He doesn't like that. He wants it. He wants what you got. This is Sirach chapter 13, verse 20. As the proud hate humility, so doth the rich abhor the poor. Let me read up. Verse 18. What agreement is there between the hyena and the dog? And what peace between the rich and the poor? As the wild ass is the lion's prey in the wilderness, so the rich eat up the poor. And they're continuously eating the poor up. More and more and more, right? This discrepancy between the super, the rich, the super elite, and the poor is just getting bigger. The gap between them is just getting bigger and bigger. And it doesn't seem to matter doesn't seem to matter what's going on, whether the world's in a bad state or in a good state. These men are just caking, but everybody else is becoming worse off. And all that seems to happen is that the poor get blamed still. The poor have to pay for the fact that the economy's not going so well. Oh, don't take a pay rise because you'll cause inflation. It's just the poor getting battered, right? But all these men, they're paying themselves big ass bonuses, and they're getting away with all kind of illegal shit. All kind of loopholes they get through. They ain't paying no taxes, or not very much taxes. Whatever the case, these men get away with all kinds of shit. Right, they're buying up all the houses. Well, Larry Fink knows he's part of that. He's BlackRock, buying up all the properties and shit. So, they get opportunities in all kinds of situations. So they got the money to take opportunity, but the poor don't have no opportunities, man. They ain't got the money to take advantage of anything. Right, so they're continuously eating up the poor. Right. In Psalms 10 verse 7. It says, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud, right? Because these men are taught like these, so this is positive. This is all going to help people make people's lives better. But that's not what they're talking about. This man, he seems quite animated and quite happy. This is all happening. These men are laughing, but this is the total destruction of the working people that they're talking about. But this guy's excited. He's about to make some more millions and billions. Or whatever, but everybody else is going to suffer from it, right? So yeah, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit, it's lies, right, and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. This ain't nothing good. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor. Right? These guys, these people, these philanthropists, and all these people that try and put, make it seem like they're righteous people in the planet, because they do charity work or some shit. Right? These men are looking to crush you. Right? Verse 9, he lieth in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lieth in wait to catch the poor. He doth catch the poor when he draweth him into his net. He croucheth and humbleth himself. Right? They act like they're one of you. Even these guys, like we've got Nigel Farage over here, right? As an alternative political group, right? It's supposed to be about, Britain first, British first, right? All these men are rich. You know what I'm saying? There's not one that is like the common man. He's poor, because a poor person can't make it nowhere in this world, right? All these men, you go to these elite schools, right? They come from these wealthy backgrounds, or they're able to make a lot of money because they're fucking set up. Not one of them is gonna operate in your best interest, right? They're gonna say things that appeal to you, and so you will vote them in, and whatever. But only these guys, none of them are for us. They're all for each other. They're all about making money and climbing the ladder, and they don't care about the poor people. All right. It says, he croucheth and humbleth himself, that the poor may fall by his strong ones. Right. All these guys that are set up, all these plans and schemes that they be plotting, people, we all fall to them because we don't have the power to resist them. All right. We are subject to their machinations, man. But public leaders set up Trump and these guys for you to follow him because you believe that they're going to change something for you, when all they do is further the agendas of these elites. Micah 2 verse 1 says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it because it is in the power of their hands. Right? The rich are, in these positions of power. Right? And so they're always scheming, like I said, to take more. Right? So they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. Right? So all they're looking to do is oppress you. Right? And take things from you. Okay, that's all they're looking to do. Right, and like I said, they kind of open with it. I said the WF, that they prayed around as some righteous organization, but they put that shit in the open, man. They don't want you to own anything. They don't feel like you need to own anything. The future that they want to create involves you owning nothing. Well, how does the fuck that work? Oh, because we're gonna share things and whatever. Like what? But you don't share shit. How about you share some of that wealth with the common person? How about you share some of that wealth with the man on the street, buying him a house or some shit? You might ain't doing none of that. Fix man up. You ain't doing none of that. You ain't making sure that the grannies have got fucking heating in their houses over the winter. You ain't doing none of that shit. Or the government will do with it. The government's fucking broke. To you, man. you ain't helping. Okay, you're making shit worse. Right, and all you've seen people that seem to be able to see are the men in the Lord. Because we know what you're really doing. All that shit is just vain talk. Lies, deceit. Because you're the devil. And we'll close out with this Psalm 64 verse 2. It says, hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. Right, so these are bitter words, man, but they're talking like these are great words. Something to look forward to. No, these are bitter words, man. People don't want this, bro. But you're gonna be fooled into thinking that it's great. I'm telling you now, you don't want this, right? So they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly they shoot him and fear not. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. This is nothing but an evil matter, right? To get you locked into the system, to get you to take the MLTB. Because once they're taking everything away from you, and the only way you could access it is if you clock in with the MOTB, that you're fucked. You're screwed. You now have to be locked into the system, and you're gonna be locked in. There ain't gonna be no way out of it, right? But this is what they want. This is what they're planning, right? They want to hold all the keys to everything. They don't want no freedom of movement of anything. Okay, they want to know everything that goes on. All right. They encourage themselves in an evil matter. They commune of laying snares privily. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. Right? Because all this fucking digital shit, blockchain shit, tokenization, it's fucking deep, man. That shit can be like bare fucking confusing and intricate. You know what I mean? These men have been studying all this shit for time. Trying to bring it to this point. That's what these Edomites work on, or not necessarily these Edomites specifically, but it's what these Edomites are orchestrating, right? Because they got other people from different nations working on the shit, but it's being funded by Esau ultimately, so he's the one asking for this shit, right? But it's crazy. A lot of people wouldn't understand what all this shit's about. Unless you was in you was in the know, you got into it, you wouldn't know nothing about it. What the fuck's tokenization? Most people wouldn't know that. What that really means. So it's like they're just like, they're just none the wiser. They're just gonna they're sleepwalking into shit. Right? But just being told that, this will make the economy better or make your lives better, some bullshit. And they just go along with it. But like I said, these devils are scheming, man. They're scheming on you. All right. So I'm gonna end it there. The opening has been edifying, and I'll catch you brothers and sisters on the next video. Until next time, I say shalom.